Boom, according to that, I am live. There are 10 comments. I am opening that up now. It's good to see you all. Thank you for joining. Sorry I'm a little bit late. We had, I think today is probably the first day of rainy season in Tokyo. I thought we weren't going to have rainy season, but the forecast for the next week is going to be pretty much rain every day. It was actually lovely. Like we've had like 31 degrees, which again, I can't do the Fahrenheit conversion on the fly anymore, but hot, like in the 90s. Yeah, it's back down into like the low 20s today. It's going to be like hot again tomorrow apparently, but it was so nice and it was raining on and off. I thought I'd go for a little bit of a jog. I thought I didn't run that much this week, so I should go for a proper long, slow run, and I ended up running exactly another 21.1 kilometers. I ran another half marathon, although it was at a comfortable pace and the weather was cool. It was actually nice running outside. I did a whole great tour of the whole eastern half of Tokyo, basically. I went to Skytree and Ueno and along the Sumida River, and I sort of came back around Tokyo Station, the palace. It was awesome. But a bit sore, a bit tired. It is a bit hot in here with the lights. In fact, I might just turn on the aircon. No, it's been nice not needing the aircon lately. Hopefully that doesn't make too much noise. Great to see we've got everyone in here. We've got, wow, Yoni first in the comments. Finland takes the lead. Must be that time zone advantage. Good on you, Yoni. Moi indeed. And as Dan H also says, our Finnish teacher, we all know some Finnish now. So there we go. Happy midsummer. That's right, the summer solstice. Everybody got to spend in the UK, got to, if they wanted to, spend the summer solstice with the Druids in front of the orange Stonehenge. Not one of the topics for tonight. Not sure how I feel about necessarily about the sort of vandalism protests for PR or whatever. Seems like a dick thing to do, but there again, it's an important issue. And looking at the history of protests on Stonehenge, like people have straight up like spray painted on them, and worse has been done to Stonehenge. But there you go. Anyway, longest day of the year. It is funny because it gets hot from now, right? It is funny that the day when the sun is the longest in the northern hemisphere, shortest in the southern hemisphere, doesn't correlate to the hottest and coldest day. It's going to get worse. But in Finland, that must also mean, I think you're in Japan right now, right? But in Finland, that must mean that there must like only be like 2 hours of darkness or something on that day. That must be crazy. Anyway, great to see you. We've got Lara in the comments. Great to see you, of course. We've got everybody else chatting away. We have Lara's not feeling well. A bit all over the place. Musashi Mark, good to see you from Montreal. Nice to have a French-speaking Canadian. I know, I'm not sure I knew that you were from Quebec, so that's cool. My I don't know. My brain just like makes connections, and I haven't prepared any of this. When I did the old ancestry thing of when one part of my family left Eastern Europe and they ended up in New Zealand, the ones with my surname, one of the daughters went off with the husband to Montreal. They actually went there and they ended up actually going across the river, across the border to Detroit. Yeah, I've been through all these sort of immigration records of Montreal and had to sort of improvise through the French, which was surprisingly easy to do. Yeah, I've heard it's a lovely place. So glad that you are having good coffee. Great that you could join us as always, Musashi Mark. Good to have you with us. Lara and Dan talking personal biology. Erin, good to have you in here. Welcome, moderator. Great to have you here as always. Good morning. Hoping that you are having a wonderful Sunday morning. Great to have you with us as always, and thank you always for keeping the unruly mob in the comments under control. Of course, no, I think we have the best commenters of any live stream anywhere on YouTube. But there we go. That's me. I just came. Tudom made it. Hey, Tudom. Would love to catch up again, by the way. It was great having lunch the other day. It's been a crazy time, but when things settle down. But good to have you back in the comments, as always. Again, even having met you, I still think when I see your name, I think of the Netflix theme thing. But there we go. Who else we got in here? We've got, is that a squirrel? That is a squirrel. We have squirrels. Yeah, we've got all of that. Look like the old Emmanuel is back. I don't know what you mean by the old Emmanuel is back. Not even the Japanese trains could keep him from reappearing. Okay, I missed something here, but anyway, I don't get the reference, Dan, but thank you for that. Project X01, good to have you in here. Hello indeed, right back at you. Thank you for joining. Dan, what happened? I am curious also. We've got from New York City, 09:30 in the morning. A warm summer morning in New York City. Great to have you as always, Sainted Sir. I do appreciate that. Mr. Cordy Chep, nice to have our Australian representative. Opposite here, strong winter blast has made everything quite cold there. You know, I should know this as well, but are you in Melbourne? For some reason, I think you're in Adelaide. But anyway, yes, if you're in the bottom end of Australia, of course, you get all that nasty weather, which New Zealand gets as well. So do rug up there. I don't know, even though Melbourne gets cold, I don't think I ever had like an electric blanket. Maybe the odd hot water bottle, but in New Zealand it gets really cold. But yeah, and do take care. You get all that Antarctic weather there. Who else we got in here? We've got squirrels, bugs, all that good stuff. Good to see a Kerberos Tenshi. Nice to have in here. Tsuyu, indeed. Tsuyu is hitting. I feel like it's hit. We've had a few proper rainy days now. Rahm Emanuel. Sorry, I'm with you now. The actual American ambassador. Why didn't I get that? Of course, he loves trains. No, I'm sorry. I don't know why I didn't get that. He's pushing for increased production of missiles and other cutting-edge weapons. Also for Japan to weaken their export laws for weapons, which is to say weaken. Japan technically, as a pacifist country, is not supposed to export weapons at all to anyone ever. So saying that they should maybe not weaken or loosen or whatever. It's ironic that that the constitution that bans Japan from doing all this was written and imposed on Japan by the Americans, but they immediately changed their minds. Like immediately when the Korean War sort of broke out and everything, especially when the Vietnam War broke out, and Japan's like, oh, hey, my hands are tied. I mean, you wrote us a constitution and you made it practically impossible for us to change it. And the Americans are like, yeah, you should just read it differently. And Japan's like, no, it's really clearly worded the way that you wrote it. Officially, by the way, Japanese say that it was Japanese parliamentarians, of course, drafted the Japanese constitution in Japanese, but it was handed to them in English by a bunch of university students who were given a 1-week assignment to write the Japanese constitution by MacArthur. So there you go, and that's why Japan basically hasn't been in a war for 80 years and has gotten rich and peaceful, and it's terrible, you know, and it's no wonder that America wants them to change. But there we go. Got Iraq 299, good to have you now, Iraq 299. You're West Coast, right? So it must be super early in the morning for you. I do appreciate you getting up and joining. Yeah, missiles, always fun. Believe in yourself, another Canadian in the chat. We got saying hello to everybody. We got Yoni, we got Boom. Oh no, he just didn't get a hot in here reference. That was not intentional, but you know, it's always getting hot in here. And we're all watching on live stream, so what you're doing in the privacy of your own rooms, if you're feeling hot, is entirely up to you, although I'd be surprised if this show has that impact on people. There have been times I've been in here, honestly, with the computer and the monitors, and when I turn the lights on, and when it's summer, it gets stinking hot here, actually. And, you know, sometimes, like last week, I was doing the sleeveless, but yeah, not that kind of a stream. And honestly, I want to keep the small community, the small community of viewers. I want to keep them. So yeah, I don't think that's a good way to expand the channel necessarily, but we'll see how it goes. Yes, indeed. Well, that's coming on later anyway. Not much darkness, yeah, in Finland, in Lapland, the sun never sets. Wow, I mean, it's magical. But I remember seeing a movie that was really boring with Al Pacino and Robin Williams, so it should have been good. And it was like a murder mystery set in Alaska during summer when the sun doesn't set, and like the impact that has and how you adapt to that and so on. And it's kind of interesting, but not very good. Anyway, I forget what the movie was even called. Maybe someone could look it up, but look it up and then don't watch it. So there you go. The communist bots. The communist bots, yes, they do approve. I had a funny experience this week, and I didn't tweet about it, so I should say that before I go ahead. Rahm Emanuel, yes, Dan H. I'm sorry I was slow on the pickup there, but I got it in the end. Yeah, I've talked a few times about Timothy Langley Esquire. He's this sort of Japanese political consultant who, you know, the part of the show whenever I talk about Japanese politics and how awesome it is, and the chat like stops moving and people start using it, becomes an ASMR video for everybody, and then I talk about video, vending machines and underwear again, and the chat like livens up again. I get all my information on how exciting Japanese politics is every Sunday morning from this briefing of Japan Expert Insights on YouTube, a channel that I think only has like a few dozen subscribers. And yet you have like the best informed Westerner talking about Japanese politics, and Japanese politics from the inside. He used to work as a personal secretary to an LDP. He was the first ever non-Japanese, I believe, to be a personal secretary to a Japanese LDP parliament member. And this is like back in the 80s. And ever since then, he's been the sort of insider political consultant. He attends all the study groups. And so he's sort of, he does this 1 hour briefing every week where he sort of tells you all the drama and hot goss and everything happening in the government, which obviously only a few weirdos stream and watch. But I as part of my morning routine, I catch up on my politics every week, listening to Timothy Esquire and Maya Matsuoka, who runs the show for him on this channel called, it's on LinkedIn and a whole bunch of different platforms, and I watch it on YouTube, and it's called Japan Expert Insights. And I don't know, I felt this week like 25 years in Japan, I've never once attended the Australia, New Zealand, like business chamber of commerce, like drinks that they have once a month. Just because it's not it's a Kiwi thing. Like we just try to avoid each other. And I don't know. It's only occurred to me this week. I think I got an invite for it or something. I'm on some mail list or something. I thought, you know what? I should just go. And I was walking there and I had an existential crisis thinking, geez, I'm going to go there. I'm not going to know anyone. Everyone's going to know each other. And it's going to be awkward. And then it occurred to me, well, there might be 1 or 2 people there that I know who show up. And in the end, there was one person who I knew that showed up. But I was literally like standing awkwardly on the corner, and I was there like 10 minutes thinking, oh, screw this, I'm going to leave. And then I saw this guy who I've been watching on YouTube. He used to make the series called Tokyo on Fire, where he used to interview like ambassadors and stuff like that. He has the best, greatest information on Japan ever. And I've talked about this guy before, Timothy Langley Esquire. And he was there, and so was his producer. I fanboyed. I ran up to him. I said, dude, I've watched you every weekend since like 2013. And the worst kind of, because I watch it after the stream starts. So I watch it from behind at double speed, and I never comment or ask questions, which is like the worst thing, because of course, when I'm streaming, I want everybody to comment and to, watch it. I want to know who you are. And I never really do that with his thing, because I listen to it when I'm walking around the supermarket and stuff like that. But I jumped up and I was like, dude, you are awesome. I love you. And he actually mentioned me on his stream this morning as well. He mentioned meeting me after I commented, because I felt like I should comment this week. Well, it was really cool. I don't know. I had an experience of meeting someone where I feel guilty having a channel with more views, although I think he's across multiple platforms. I feel guilty having a channel with more views because, I'm not worthy situation. He's genuinely actually really, really great to listen to, but I bring you the digested version of sort of what I pick up from him and from mine. It was wonderful meeting them both this week, so that was pretty awesome. There's an American who recently returned part of Stonehenge, which he stole and took. Geez, how did he smuggle one of the Stonehenge stones into his carry-on? He was worried about what would happen if the stones to the stones, I guess, after he died. Yeah, there's actually one great thing about living in New Zealand. God, another squirrel to chase here. I don't know anything about like curses or anything on the Stonehenge stones, and again, what sort of a dick is chipping off parts of Stonehenge to begin with? But fine, I mean, they're 10-ton slabs of rock. I suppose they can bear a few chips. But there are in New Zealand and in Australia totally different indigenous cultures. Aboriginals have nothing to do, like a totally different path of arrival and everything. Aboriginals have been in Australia for some of the first humans to leave Africa went to Australia. So they're different to everybody. And they're amazing, amazing people. But and within Australia, they're incredibly diverse. They're not, we'd say Aboriginal people, but Aboriginal people are themselves incredibly ethnically, linguistically. You got all of that, of course. But they do have this thing about sacred places, including Uluru, which is the Ayers Rock under the old white person's name for it, the landmark in the middle of Australia. Which, of course, people would, put ropes over it. Used to be able to, when I was a kid, you could climb up it and go up the top and take photos and stuff like that. And the people who actually owned the land and were the custodians of that land said, that's a sacred site. You go there, you're going to get cursed. And it's kind of like, in New Zealand, they totally have this concept. The concept of taboo, which, is a Tahitian word. It's a Polynesian word, which gets used in Samoa and Hawaii and New Zealand. In New Zealand, it's called tapu, T-A-P-U. But it's the same thing. It's basically this idea of something sacred that carries a curse. And if you go to like a place where people are buried, or certain types of places, the stuff there is got this sort of energy, this curse energy, which you have to like cleanse yourself when you leave. And if you go into a gravesite without realizing it, or you remove rocks from a sacred place or something, you'll get cursed. And the way that these curses, it's just like anywhere, even in Europe, the way that curses or belief in sacred places and curses work is you have to tell lots of scary stories. You have got to have great summer stories about, little Jimmy, he was mischievous and he took a rock and he hid it under his bed, and then some scene from The Ring happened where his mum woke up, came in to check up on little Jimmy, and he was like a skeleton, or he was struck by lightning while water skiing or something. And it really happened. My grandma's uncle's cousin heard the story from a friend. And everyone tells these awesome stories, and Maori are really great at telling these stories. And I've heard all sorts of stories. I remember I've heard some great tapu stories. Just again, they're like the summer ghost stories. They include ghosts, but they're basically just fuck around and find out stories about messing with sacred places. And you definitely, I wouldn't mess. I don't believe in this stuff, but no, it's disrespectful to begin with. But just on top of it, the stories of people who would remove a stone from his rock, and then have all this sort of bad luck happen to them, and and families like trembling, returning it and saying sorry. You hear about that with Ayers Rock, and you definitely hear about that with New Zealand. Anyway, there ain't no party like a communist party. I could not have said that better myself, Aaron. Wow, I've got everybody rocking in here. Great to see all the beautiful people. I hope that Shubis makes it. We've also got Void Theft. Glad that you can make it, Void Theft. Interesting channel name. Void Theft saw the 2.5 Voyages show with where we talked for a long time, but not long enough, about AI. And with Hope in particular, the more critical one that we did. Also, I think the one with Marcos. And by the way, I'm still messaging with Hope, and we're probably going to do another round. There's plenty other topics to do with that. And Void Theft was so into it, he's actually going to, says he's going to make a response video to the video that we did the other day, which I love that. That's old school YouTube. I love that. Yeah, that's what we should be doing. We should be making videos and talking and having these conversations online. So there you go. This show does not have the effect, quite the opposite. Yes, indeed. Anyway, so glad that you made it, Void Theft. Good to have you in the comments, and looking forward to seeing the video response. Peace and love from Koichi. We've got our peace and love from Koichi. Our peace and love man, DJ Sunnyside Up. Great to have you in here. Got Sadiq, a man from a Florida man, is here in the chat. Good to have you in here, Sadiq. Welcome to the gang, Void Theft. I don't know. It sounds like it's a cool handle name, but it does sound partly like a threat or a warning. So there you go. Your reaction video on 2.5 ERGs about Gen AI is uploaded. Okay, I'm going to put that in my watch list. I'm going to finish late tonight, but I'll probably watch it tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. I haven't seen a video response in like years. It feels like we're in the early 2010s, and I mean that in a good way. Although to me that still feels like yesterday. So there we go. Who else we got in here? We've got West Coast of Tokyo, perhaps. Oh, no way. Iraq. Went to watch the rugby yesterday. Went and got a Japan rugby jersey. So you were in the Kokuritsu Kyogijo. Okay, cool. So you saw Japan basically get its ass handed to it by the England team, which is more or less expected, but it still wasn't great. It wasn't a great game. I mean, you weren't expecting it to be. I was hoping that they might show something, but I'm glad that you made it to the game. Okay, so you're back on the west side of Tokyo, so good to see that. Wow, got so many beautiful people here in the comments. I'm just going to skip through to people who I haven't said hello to yet so I can jump into the topics. We've got Tokyo 503, Al Pacino, Insomnia, boom. It's called Insomnia. It has a rating of 7.2, so it can't be that bad. I mean, it's got great actors. It's got Robin Williams playing the bad guy in a non-comedic role, and Al Pacino as the, like everything there is going for it. But yeah, it should be. You watch this show as well, Dan H. So there you go. Yeah. We should do it. Get a crossover. I'll tell you what. I mean, I was sort of. I mentioned that. I mentioned to him when I got to talk to him and to Maya that I do use your show as material for what I talk about at night on my own. I said podcast, but I don't know. Yeah, no. I do have this, like, I mean, he's real deal. I have this slight imposter complex syndrome thing going on with him, but there we go. Remember, please, the squirrel overlords, remember, I don't monetize these videos. You shouldn't be seeing ads when you come and click on these videos. So, Uluru. Is it Uluru or Uluru? Yeah, I think it's Uluru. I should know that, but I'm only half Australian. Thank you for that. For some reason, I thought there was like a Ruru at the end of it rather than a Uru, but it's just Uluru, right? Anyway, when I grew up, Australia was still racist when I was living in Australia when I was a kid. I mean, Australia is hardly post-racial even now, but it was called Ayers Rock, which it's got a better name now. Do like the video. Remember to like. That's the only thing I do it for. We got half the show. Fun of the show is the live chat, and that's all of you do that. The squirrel overlords, indeed. Wow, we've got the little Jimmy was cursed by the squirrel overlords. That's right. If you don't mess with the like button, terrible, terrible things will happen to Jimmy. So do it for Jimmy. Remember to click on the like button. The One with Hope. Yeah, The One with Hope was definitely a good show. So thank you for that. And there's a history behind the name. Yeah, I guess I will watch that, and I would love to see that. And we've got Winkstar. Good to see you, Winkstar. Nice to have you in the chat as always. We've got peanuts, we've got cheese, we've got butter, we have all the dairy products. I am now going to dive into the topics, which we have on that side of the screen. Although, yes, it's that side of the screen, over there. Hey, topics. Okay. First topic that we've got, if you're into AI, even though it could possibly be destroying humanity, the best one to use right now is Claude Sonnet 3.5. I used it for the first time today, and it's pretty good. It's hard to tell at the moment. It is at least, it feels the same as ChatGPT. It is free, and you can use it. ChatGPT 4.0, the best model of ChatGPT, on most of these measuring scales, this one slightly exceeds. And it's nice to see that there's some competition. So I asked it some things, which it gave convincing sounding answers, but I haven't had a chance to. I asked it to write me some code. I didn't get a chance to check it yet. Sorry, still slightly dehydrated from the 21-kilometer run today. But anyway, I'm going to check that out. But do check out, it's cool. I like the interface and everything, so do check out Claude Sonnet 3.5. That looks cool. Apparently, part of the reason that Japan rose to 118th. Whoa, earthquake. Earthquake. I wonder if I can I show you? If I put this down on the desk, can you see the water shaking? Okay, that was just a baby. That was like a Shindo 2. It's still shaking just a little bit. So that was a 2 on the shake scale. A 3 is like you'd see stuff moving a little bit. You couldn't see it moving, but I could feel it. Curious. I always look up the weather. Let's do that right now. Let's if I add a window here, you'll be able to see it. Here's what I do. Whenever there's an earthquake, I immediately go down to on the weather news in Japan, because in Japan earthquakes are weather. You go to the top, and on the side down here, although I normally look at this full screen. Okay, let's just type in Jixing. Boom. Hang on, there's normally like an earthquake section. Okay, I don't want to mess up the... Let's... Where is the earthquake stuff? Okay, I'm going to make this full screen over here. Give me one moment. It's on the side, so I wasn't showing because of the screen being reduced. So it hasn't shown up yet, but it was fairly short duration. Duration is an indication of what magnitude it was, and how much it shakes is just an indication of how much it shakes, and they've got a measuring thing for that. Not many shakes lately, but it was a low magnitude, so I think it would be right below Tokyo, and it'll show up soon anyway. But that was a definite earthquake, so that was some excitement. First time I think I've ever actually had an earthquake on the live stream that I can remember. Anyway, back into the topics. Japan had some women in the government cabinet, so that helped it rise to the 118th. Saudi Arabia itself rose from like 130th to 125th. So look out, Japan is improving, but Japan last year was in the position that Saudi Arabia is now in, which I think they just allowed women to start driving there. So it gives you a slight problem, a slight indication of where everything is. The squirrel overlords. That's right. Somebody didn't like the video. That's why I had an earthquake. So we've got people in Itabashi. Baby quake. Yes, it was a baby earthquake. Definitely, if it was something in Kochi, then we would all be screwed. I'm going to refresh this because I am not crazy. Although according to the weather news right now, which should have updated by now, according to this, I am crazy. But there was definitely a quake. We're going to come back and check that later on. It was small. It was small. And yes, while Japan is living in the future, somebody in Nagano Prefecture leaked the personal information of 369 high school students after loading it onto a USB drive and dropped it. There's actually a funny thing about this. I sort of knew little aspects of this. So under Japanese law, all government departments and educational institutions, if you go to a university in Japan, if you work at a government office, none of the computers in those buildings are allowed to be connected to the internet. They're only allowed to be connected to a government intranet, which I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's like J. It's always a J something, but it's basically a Saki intranet. It's literally like it's like a late 1990s internet bulletin board. They are prohibited by law from connecting to the internet, and they've only just passed a law this week to allow government agencies and so on to use systems that are connected to the internet, where they can actually check information from the internet. And this is why. And they thought that isolating their computer network from the internet would keep everything safer. But the result is, whenever they have to move data between systems or whatever, they can't transfer data across the internet between, like, they can't attach. The result is they end up using USB drives to move data around because the intranet doesn't support the transfer of files between different sort of government departments or institutions. And the result is everything gets loaded onto floppy disks and USB drives that people drop and lose all the time. And hence the result is that it's less secure. So the government finally got rid of this like a week ago. I think I might have mentioned this on the show, but this is the thing. This is where Japan is still, people are relying on USB data for like, USB sticks for data. So, yeah, I'm sure I felt it. Here we go. There's the earthquake. I wasn't crazy. At 22:54 p.m. And I was definitely on the 2. There was a magnitude 4.1. It was 70 kilometers underground. Epicenter was in northwestern Chiba. So that's probably around Kashiwa, where I used to live. And I'm in one of those little 2s. So bit of excitement, but really just more like a big truck driving by in terms of the amount of shaking. The Tokyo election has been crazy. There is a 2-week campaigning period which started last week, so I guess week after next we're going to have the election in Tokyo. And there have been, as usual, there are like a few, there's 2 or 3 serious candidates who have a chance of winning. Then there's about another, 6 or 7 candidates who are kind of serious but delusional. Nobody knows who they are and they don't have a chance. And then there's like about, 30 candidates. Like there's meant to be like something like 52 candidates for the Tokyo governorship. And apparently, like basically this time, more than 30-something candidates are basically joke or gimmick candidates who are literally just spending money on running to promote their businesses or to sort of be famous or for other sort of purposes. And 2 particular candidates drawing a lot of attention within this. If we start from the bottom end, in fact, I think somewhere down here, somebody actually, I think Jeffrey Hall here, he actually did a thread of all of the different candidates, including this candidate. There are so many candidates. With over 50 candidates running in the election, they're going to be spread the TV broadcast, which they are mandated by law that everybody, no matter how crazy, has to get 10 minutes of time, including, by the way, the Destroy the NHK Party is apparently got like 26 candidates running in this. They each get 10 minutes each of broadcast time, which has to be broadcast on NHK. And they literally go onto NHK and say, screw this channel. And, but they're kind of taking this. This person here is actually, I love the subtitle here, for 4 years ago, he went on. He used his 10 minutes. Apart from sitting there naked, he said the word for penis in Japanese, and NHK cut him off, which he declared a violation of his political rights. Not a serious candidate, just in case you couldn't tell. But on top of this, you also have these billboards everywhere. Like just near my house, there's like 2 or 3 of these. They're not fully filled up yet. But the anti-NHK party, because they are putting in 26 candidates, and because they're basically just a chaos party, they've basically said that they will sell space on their candidates posters. Well, it's supposed to be a picture of the candidate and a brief summary who they are. Apparently, the anti-NHK party said, "Hey, if you donate money, we'll let you use it as advertising space, and you get free advertising space all over Tokyo on all 26 of our spots." Apparently, the people who have taken the anti-NHK party up on this and have covered these political billboards and like personal ads for their CDs and stuff are getting like boycotted and getting massive backlash for going along, basically with the trolling exercise by this party. The other problem that's going on here, which we'll see later on, is that one of the candidates whose main platform is legalizing prostitution has gotten an adult video movie actress to agree to for his poster to basically be a naked woman with appropriately with censorship, just covering in a very small way the minimal coverage possible of his face, covering the parts that you're not supposed to show in public. And these things are like in front of schools and all this sort of thing. And so the police actually called that candidate in and gave him a very stern talking to, saying that it's possible that his poster violates local ordinances on nuisance behavior. And they asked him to please voluntarily take it down. And apparently he's thinking about doing that, but he's gotten lots of press just for getting a porno actress to be his poster and for his face to cover the parts. But he runs like every election. Another perennial participant in the election, which might be visible, it's not visible on this one, is Dr. Nakamatsu. He's like, he actually is a smart guy. He has like, 100 patents. He's invented all sorts of useful, I'm trying to remember what his famous breakthrough one, it wasn't the calculator, but it was something like that. But he's basically just spending all his retirement money every time on running for the Tokyo governor, saying that, you need the smartest man in Japan running Tokyo. And I think this could be his year. He's 95. I think this could be his year. But the Tokyo, so all the chaos, of course, happening. And apparently Chinese propaganda bots are having fun highlighting the chaos of all these sort of the porn stars and the anti-government, the anti-NHK parties, and sort of all the chaos. And they're highlighting, saying basically, you see, Chinese people, democracy doesn't work. This is what you would get. And I must admit, while you could say that Tokyo's democracy looks vibrant, it doesn't necessarily look like it's at a good state. So the fact that the CCP is promoting that this is, aren't you glad you have the Chinese Communist Party instead of this? The two main candidates, the main competitor, it is boiling down to 2 people. The current governor, Koike, who's been the governor for 2 terms, she's going for a 3rd term. She used to be the Minister of the Environment in the LDP government. She left the LDP. She actually wanted to run for governor of Tokyo, and the local Tokyo LDP said, "No, we have our crusty old man that we all support. He's one of the boys. You are not a boy. You cannot run." And she said, "Screw you guys. I'm going to leave the party. I'm going to run. I'm going to destroy your guy, and I'm going to wipe out the LDP." And she did. She destroyed the LDP. She quit the LDP, made a party of literally the Tokyo First Party, which as a Tokyo resident, I kind of appreciate. But again, she's kind of ran on a bit of a nationalist platform, saying Tokyo for Tokyo people, and and she destroyed the LDP. So the LDP won't forgive her. She's kind of ineffective. She's an experienced person in government and so on. She knows how to run things. She's gotten a lot of flack over the redevelopment of the Meiji Park, the Olympic Park area. And a few other things, but generally, she's got pretty good support. And the LDP is still so destroyed by her that they're not even putting a candidate in this election. The main candidate running against her is Renho, who is a kind of a people would say charismatic. She's the one over here. She's been kind of one of the celebrities. She used to be a newsreader And she has been in one of the stars of the opposition for a long time, and she has quit the opposition party. She's running as an independent. She's being backed by basically every opposition party, including the communists, which isn't always a good look. And yeah, the interesting thing about her is that her father is Taiwanese, and because of that, she was not eligible to be Japanese until the citizenship law changed in 1985. And when that happened, she assumed that she was Japanese now, as her mum's Japanese. But she never did the paperwork for it properly. And she was actually had been in parliament for like 15 years before someone who was kind of trolling her found that she was actually not a proper Japanese citizen. So she did all the paperwork and tidied it up. But she has in the past, sort of being a leftist, has said, "Oh, I don't even consider myself Japanese." And she's done interviews where she sort of said, "I'm proud to be Taiwanese." Whereas now she's running for like governorship. She's, "Oh no, I'm very Japanese." So she's getting a little bit called out on that. I don't care, I mean, she's smart enough. I suppose it's good to see someone giving Koike a run for her money. I'm kind of neutral on both. She's been famous for saying a few things which honestly haven't been that smart, but they've been kind of catchy. Like I think I mentioned the supercomputer thing last week. Like, why can't we just be number two? And the first press conference that she did on the Tokyo governor thing was, "So you're running for governor, so you're just happy being number two in this race?" And she said, "No, number two is not good enough in this race." But so yeah, there's all that sort of a thing. Koike also has a thing following her around. She claims on her election resume that she graduated from the University of Cairo with Arabic studies. However, University of Cairo doesn't have any record of her having graduated. Some people are saying this is a bit like the Obama was born in Kenya conspiracy theory. But again, it's come up again this year, and some people are like adamant. Some people, are saying that just University of Cairo just isn't very good at keeping records. But she is apparently fluent in Arabic, and she did live in Egypt. But again, people who are out to get her say that she's not qualified to run. She's violated the election law by lying about her resume. So there's all these sorts of things. But the main thing is, it's porn stars, TV ads. We're going to have Screw the NHK ads 26 out of 52 times on the NHK. And all the crazies and self-promoters and so on, and two quasi-serious people who really don't actually have any policies. So that's the Tokyo election, and the Chinese Communist Party's loving it because they think it makes them look more legitimate. Level 2 in Chiba, so there we go. Northwestern Chiba. Yes, so we got all of that. You asked us on Twitter, how often does one see the not safe for work, NSFW, not safe for work posters in Tokyo? I have not, much to my disappointment, although I live in a kind of a very school district with lots of schools, so they really shouldn't put the poster up around you. I have not seen the poster myself. And from what I've heard, they are planning to take it down. It was a stunt which got lots of press attention, which it did. I've only seen it on Twitter, but there we go. Basically a naked lady, that's right. Ridiculous but funny, yes. I mean, I don't know what's better. One thing, the Americans should take the Japanese lesson of having like a 17-day campaigning limit on elections, because I mean, I'm not even American. I get exhausted by how long American elections take. And the fact is, that's something that seems like a good idea if you think about it for 2 weeks. You wait 18 months for an election and you're thinking, yeah, QAnon have some really good points. Actually, we should really, your perspective, what seems outrageous when you've got 2 weeks to think about it, just out of boredom becomes credible if people start saying crazy. I think that the duration of the elections in America incentivizes extreme and crazy views to take over, and they should just do what Japan does. Toshio Tamogami, former drooling right-wing, former Japan Self-Defense Force, who strongly believes that Japan never did anything wrong. And Makoto Sakurai, who is we should round up all the Koreans and put them into concentration camps type of a guy. So the right-wing vote will be split between them. I mean, they're both fringe anyway. They've both never gotten a lot of votes. Tamogami is liked by a lot of... Tamogami, though, he paid his volunteers, which you're not allowed to do. He paid people to come up from Kyushu, including a YouTuber. He paid them money. He broke the law on campaigning the last time, and for what? He lives down in Kyushu or something, I think. So, yeah, you've got all of that. And Sakurai, is basically from an extreme right-wing group that just goes around and harasses school children at the North Korean schools, which, is he's just a horrible person from what I can see. Yeah, so I don't think any of them have a serious base of support anyway. I guess it'll be interesting to see if it's always disturbing to see that they get any votes at all, but we'll see what happens. The Maywaku YouTuber helped him remove the posters. That's another thing. Good to see you, December Clouds, by the way. Good to have you in the chat. Atomic Tom, also good to see you in the chat. The Joker guy. The Joker guy is the promotion of I mean, you know, Trump seems to be pro-prostitute, or at least pro-porn star from last what I checked. But anyway, Renho is Aoyama's pride and joy. You know what? If I'm being honest, I characterized Renho last week as Japan's AOC, and I feel same about both of them. Like, it's good to see a charismatic woman being successful in politics in Japan. Japan needs that. But personally, do I like her? Do I think that she's smart? Again, I'm glad to see anyone who could kick Koike out, and best that it be a woman, and it'd be good for the system to have a change. So I guess I probably support Renho over Koike, but I don't like her. And I don't think she's that smart, honestly. But there again, I mean, compared to everything else going, I think it's good for the Japanese political system in Japan for there to be a change, because too many of these things are just embedded where it's just the same crusty old people and no ideas over and over, which is what Koike, although she's, you know, had sparks of innovation, I think it's time to change her. But yeah, do I think Koike will stay in? If I was betting money, I would say 60-40 Koike over Renho. But there again, I mean, Koike not being associated with, if she was still associated with the LDP, if she was the LDP's candidate, she would be toast, just based on the unpopularity of the government right now. But she's isolated herself from that by herself, like getting into a big fight with the LDP. So I think just based on the fact that she's been a kind of a steady, reliable, no massive scandals. Some people would disagree over the Olympic Village redevelopment and everything. I'd say that she's the favorite, but and so far, yeah, Renho's made a couple of slip-ups already, but I don't know. Renho outside chance. I give Renho a 30 to 40% chance of winning. That's my sort of view. Atomic Tom, you think she's a smarter politician than some people give her credit for? I thought she was kind of smart until she started talking about issues that I know stuff about, and I'm like, oh my god. So I don't know. She's kind of dead to me now that she's talked about things like digital legislation and other sort of topics. There again, I mean, America, everyone's idiots, of course. But I don't know. I think because I expected more of her, it was more disappointing to realize that she's human, perhaps. So I'm not really a fan of either. Although again, I think it's a good thing to have someone younger and not an old man having any kind of success in politics anywhere is a good thing. But it doesn't give you a free pass for being an idiot, which she is sometimes. So I guess I kind of feel the same way on both of them. Anyway, back into the topics. We have 10 minutes left, and we're just talking about the naked people running for governor of Tokyo. This is an interesting stat. I had no idea. Apparently, this is a survey by the Tokyo metropolitan government of people who feel that they are consuming unhealthy levels of alcohol. So this isn't necessarily objective. This is a self-assessment. But for the first time ever, just in the last couple of years, I guess during the pandemic, more women than men, declining numbers of men, 19% of men has now gone down to 16%. The number of percentage of women who feel like they are consuming unhealthy levels of alcohol has gone up. 2011, 14% to 18%. Now more than men in Tokyo. This really surprises me. I mean, I guess if you're living on your own at home and you've got nothing to do, I can definitely understand how during the pandemic, if people started drinking more. But that does surprise me. I had an image overall of just alcohol consumption, like for the whole society, going down. And certainly when you see people passed out, you do see women passed out as well as men. But certainly when you see people passed out, you see more men than women. So I think there's definitely a self-denial aspect where I'm sure the actual real objective number is still men are more abusive of alcohol. But this is a really interesting one, and it does surprise me. I've got no particular insight into it, but it's an interesting. It was a surprising statistic. This was actually from and I'm blanking out. It'll come back to me. But she posts a lot of renewable energy stuff. And again, right now, the cheapest source of energy in the world is, I mean, all these people complaining about all these solar farms and everything. But along with coal, solar is now the cheapest source of energy in the world, and it's because China's figured out how to mass produce all of these solar panels and made it super cheap. And it's got all these sort of benefits. It's one of the aspects of AI that I was actually debating offline with Hope today, where she was talking about a lot of people talking in the last week about the power consumption aspect of AI, which is massive. But at the same time, you have a lot of this renewable energy coming online, which is kind of good in a way that AI is driving installation of lots of renewables. But of course, you shouldn't be using that much electricity in the first place. But yeah, solar is actually one of those things that's taking off in a big way, and that's a good thing. Yeah, Aaron, I'm just saying, even the last few days, I have seen that. It's never a good thing. Yeah, women who, sitting down and can't stand up. Normally they've got someone with them. I don't think I see them by themselves as much as I see men by themselves. But you definitely see women unable to walk home sometimes. So yeah, people pass out on the streets. Indeed, yeah, you only see them. So this seems to be increasing. I know I had this image that particularly younger people are not drinking as much anymore. Speaking of bad drinking habits, I used to Republican D. That's basically like Red Bull before Red Bull existed. It's like a cough medicine bottle. It tastes like cough medicine. It's full of caffeine and a whole bunch of leftover surplus industrial waste vitamins, including a whole bunch of B vitamins that just give you a kick in the ass. When it's basically it's kind of a coffee with vitamins. And when I didn't used to like drinking coffee, so when I worked at a law firm, and I had to work at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I needed to like get a document out and not pass out, I drink one of these little bottles to get a little burst of energy. And my routine ended up being that I would probably drink something like the bottles are actually about this big, but I probably drank about this volume every few days. I would actually stack all these little medicine bottles on the window of my office when I was working at a law firm. And then one day I went along for a health check, and the doctor said, you need to cut the heavy whiskey drinking because my pancreas was turning into some form of pate. And we figured out when we went through, because I don't drink very much alcohol. I don't not drink, but I almost never drink. So what I told the doctor, I was drinking like 2 or 3 bottles of Republican D every day. He said, oh yeah, that's what's destroying your pancreas. Stop it right now. Start drinking coffee. Yes, they sponsor the rugby, and I used to drink one of those before every game of rugby. It is good to get a little caffeine kick before you play, but this is just industrial waste. So I kind of thought this comedically large bottle of Republican D, don't drink that stuff. It's bad for you, seriously. But there we go. Interesting. Call Cameron, who I run into now and again. He's a Kiwi guy about town. Very smart guy. He's friends with Timothy Langley, who I talked about earlier. He said he went on a tour, and I see these as well. They're testing out these sort of automated mobility vehicles for basically elderly people, where they're basically like robots that go around Tokyo in a very slow, safe. They avoid people and whatever, and I guess these are easy to drive. So they're solutions for elderly people. So now they're starting to do tours. This is around the Yaesu side of Tokyo Station, and these little super. It's like the most boring version of Super Mario Kart possible, perhaps, but maybe a more ethical form of go-karting in Tokyo. Just except that they're a little bit frustratingly slow. But apparently, he did one of these tours, and I think it's probably you're going to see more of these things in the future. Kind of a detailed article about how the West misunderstands. I'm not sure I understand this. I'm not sure I agree with all of the assertions made in this article about Japanese immigration, but the overall thrust that Japan does have an immigration policy, and they're managing it very, very carefully to sort of avoid what are seen by some as mistakes of European and American countries with immigration. But the idea that, again, a lot of people like to superimpose their ideas on Japan, that Japan is this ideal conservative traditional values xenophobic country, and show an example of all of those ideas working that a lot of right-wingers like to draw on. They believe that Japan is like an ethno-state, and it's not, and they're always shocked to find out that Muslims are legal. I've literally had people ask me, are Muslims illegal in Japan? I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you? So you get all of that. But this kind of explains how, Japan does have an open. Japan's foreign population's gone from under 1 million, And that million, when I got here, Japan had less than 1 million foreigners, and of those, 700,000 of those were people born in Japan. So people didn't move to Japan at all when I first moved here. And now there's like there's like 3.5 million foreigners now, and it's going up like hundreds of thousands every year. So it is increasing, but there again, most of those people are not on visas with pathways for permanent residence. They're being very careful about, sort of controlling that. But yeah, interesting article anyway. So I posted about that. What else have we got here? Boeing, the latest Boeing spaceship is leaking helium everywhere. It's parked on the ISS. It was supposed to go back a few days ago, but they're going to do some more checks, and now they've indefinitely delayed the return of. So, again, the Boeing brand at the moment. I'm not a fan of the Elon brand, but, again, I'd much rather be on the SpaceX or the Tesla car or whatever. Like, the people who work for them do good work. And Boeing is just like messing up bad at the moment. Say did sir at your service. I do say this sort of thing more frequently than you might think, actually. But there we go. We got Liquid Death brand in Japan yet. I think I know what you mean. That's like an energy drink, right? But yeah, Japan has lots of Genki drinks, lots of energy drinks, but not that. We've got information about drinks in the chat there. We've got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to power through here. Apparently, increasing number of people are unable to squat like a Yankee, like this guy. This guy able to squat on the ground with like flat feet, which is kind of, yeah. So that's a Yankee Zawadi. Yankee. I'm assuming everybody here knows what a Yankee is, but for those who don't know, there's this idea kind of from the 70s and the 80s that rebellious Japanese teenagers, like these folks who I'd bet $1 million are from Kitakyushu, because their fashion styles are still from the 1980s. Northern Kyushu. It used to be a thing that these gangs of sort of Japanese punks had this image that the ideal sort of punk would have these 1950s, 1960s biker gang, rockabilly hairstyle sort of looks. And so while they'd sort of imitate these sort of, punk biker, rogue types from America, one of the poses that they'd often do was the squatting in a rice paddy, picking rice and taking a shit possibly at the same time kind of pose, which this person is doing, which is marked by flat feet on the ground, legs bent. And, and this is also the way that you have to take a crap on a Japanese traditional crapper, where you have to squat at the squat toilets, which Japanese can comfortably do, but now everybody's sitting on Western-style toilets. I can do that for like about 20 seconds, and then all the circulation gets cut off and I start getting cramps, and then it gets ugly. So yeah, increasingly Japanese are becoming like me, which I feel bad about. But the old thing about Japanese, traditionally having a lot of Japanese with bow legs and shorter legs, apart from malnutrition, it's also just that a lot of people used to work squatting all day, working in rice fields. And so they just have these pathways for, the blood veins able to flow into the legs better. And it seems that with a modern diet and not squatting all the time, they're less able to do it. But this is called a Yankee Zawari because it's a pose that people like this sort of do. And they're called Yankees because Yankees were the term for sort of American style sort of punks. It became Yankee is a term for a punk in Japanese, but now also particularly associated with the bubble, like with the early 90s and the late 80s. Not many people can do that squat anymore, and that's a good thing. That means more modern toilets. So there we go. Oh yeah, the Japanese, the Japanese Prime Minister, the New Zealand Prime Minister came to Japan this week and did a whole bunch of stuff. Seems like a good guy. I was talking to some New Zealanders who met him. I don't know that much about him, but he seems to be a good enough guy. And Japan signed an agreement to share secret information with Japan, which was great. They made a very big deal that because New Zealand's a member of the Five Eyes Alliance that basically controls all this New Zealand, Australia, Canada, UK, and America. All the sort of English-speaking Anglophone countries around the world, they all sort of basically have satellite stations where they have they basically help the NSA and so on spy on everybody in the world and all the world's tap all the world's communications, which Japan says that we want in on the Five Eyes. And everyone's like, yeah, you're not really allowed in. New Zealand's like, why are you allowed in the Five Eyes Club? And it's more just because we're in a good geographic location and we speak English, and we generally don't leak stuff out. But so New Zealand signed this confidential information sharing agreement, which is basically for sharing spy information with Japan. The next day after that, it turns out that the Japanese Space Agency has lost all of its secret information on its rockets and its spy satellites. It got leaked in a huge hack. And Japan has a long history of not, even though Japan just passed a law for the first time last year, a secret information act, which Japan didn't even have before. The most famous case of Japanese not being able to keep confidential information secret, I believe, was Japan has its own equivalent of the CIA, a very small sort of spy agency, intelligence agency. That just when I got to Japan, the early 2000s. They literally, apparently someone at the spy agency kept a directory of every employee of all the Japanese spies, every spy in the Japanese intelligence agency, with their names, home addresses, and qualifications on an Excel sheet. That was like, and somebody hacked it and found it and just published it on the internet. So the fact that, this is kind of why nobody wants Japan in these secret confidential information sharing alliances. And maybe they said, New Zealand, you give them one first, since the most information we can give them is the home addresses of our sheep. So we gave them that, and immediately they're already showing that they can't keep secret information. This is literally information that North Korea could use to fire intercontinental ballistic missiles with nuclear weapons at America. So, and New Zealand does have a space program, actually. We've launched more rockets lately than Japan does because we've got Rocket Lab. But yeah, I don't know. I would start maybe with lower level confidential information, like, cooking recipes for lamb, and work our way up for that. If North Korea starts finding out about New Zealand's like lamb recipes, then I would probably stop the information sharing at that point. I would work up lamb, kiwi fruit, addresses and names of sheep, work our way up. I wouldn't start with the rocket information anyway. That's just my advice to the New Zealand government. We are coming up on time. I'm going to keep going forward here. Apparently the guy who shot Shinzo Abe was judged by a psychiatric panel to be mentally fit, which means, yeah, we can kill him. He's probably not going to get the death penalty, by the way. In Japan, you have to kill like more than, I think the number's like you have to kill more than 3 people to be even to be a factor. Although people are speculating because it's Shinzo Abe, because it was this high-profile political assassination. They might make an exception and say that this is worthy of the death penalty. It was certainly premeditated, but we'll see. But no, I don't think he's going to be eligible for that. But yeah, in Japan, I'm not sure I've heard. And by the way, the first thing you learn at law school about criminal law, about the insanity defense, is people, the old thing, if I'm accused of murder, I'm just going to act like a crazy person so I get off found not guilty by reason of insanity. That is a great idea if being locked up for the rest of your life in an insane asylum is your idea of a better alternative than having a parolable prison sentence. In most cases, there are cases in New Zealand where people have... I remember hearing about cases where the moment that a court psychiatrist determined that the person was not liable for reason of insanity, they switched their plea to guilty immediately because they preferred to go to jail than an insane asylum, which they'd probably never get out of. Yeah, not to be taken lightly, but in Japan, not a problem because a little bit more medieval, the justice system here. Top Japanese skateboarders are being punished for drinking when they were under 20. Again, in most Western countries that I can think of, the focus would be on the crime is the crime of selling to minors, not minors drinking. The idea that the minor is the criminal for drinking. I drank beer at home when I was 5 years old. Dad would pour me like a finger of beer and put lemonade on top, and I could have a shandy whenever Dad was watching the rugby. I'd have a sip of wine every time they had wine, so it wasn't stigmatized. I've been drinking alcohol since I was like, it doesn't affect me at all. Maybe mildly. But in Japan, that makes the 5-year-old a criminal. To me it's backwards, but that is how Japan goes. So if you're under 20, don't drink because you're the criminal in that case. Japan fixing the exchange rates and not doing it very successfully. This read very true. Apparently, an exercise at a junior high school, they let the kids make the class rules. And all the kids made these rules that were basically like it turned into the Stanford prison experiment. The kids started making these outrageous, onerous rules, which none of them could follow. So yeah, they were like meaner than the actual adult teachers when they can make rules for themselves. Tons of other stuff. A little debate here between Renho and Koike, where Renho said the main focus of my campaign is going to be stopping development of the Meiji Jingu Olympic Village area and reconsidering that. I think this is the most important thing in the election. And Koike responded, well, I've already stopped development, so that's not even really an issue. So I guess you've got nothing to do here. In her cold kind of slap down, it was kind of funny. And this to me, that exchange kind of sums up Renho, where Renho comes across as charismatic. She speaks very well. She's very concerned. She's worried about this thing. She raises this issue, and Koike just coldly just slaps it with the back of the hand, like not even an issue. You know nothing. I still think I would like Renho to win just because we need to change, but I giggled a little bit watching her get beat down by the governor like that. Yeah, massive hack at the space agency the day after New Zealand signed an agreement to share all of our butter making secrets with the Japanese government. Just not cool, Japan. Oh yeah, and at the rugby yesterday, Japan got its ass handed to it. What can I say? Japan had 3 players in key positions that had never even played professional rugby before. They were university students. Eddie, the new coach, half Japanese, half Australian guy, coaching Japan again. He coached it many years ago. Kind of famous for torturing the players to death with a sort of killer fitness routine. He's only just got the team together. He wants to build up a bunch of young players. So it's a good idea. But immediately playing one of the top countries in the world, which itself had some new players. But it was always going to be ugly. I was hoping they might do better, but there we go. This is interesting. In Australia, miso shiru, $26.50. Edamame. I mean, miso shiru, you would not pay 200 yen for. You would not pay like $1.20 for. Is going for $26.50 Australian, which is US about $20. So yes, Australia is expensive, and that's why I can't go back. Gaiji Mami is an institution. She should be protected at all costs. She's done that. There's the poster of. So the face covering up all the private parts is the candidate, but these are all the. This is her animation of the candidates talking to each other. She is a genius. That's me at the rugby. I'm going to wrap up there because I am going to set up a DJ set. I got nothing prepared, but that's all part of the fun. I'm going to go through the comments and say goodbye. But yeah, thank you for keeping me company. You call that the Slavic squat in Europe. I did not know that, so there we go. I can do that. Worried about pooing pants. Do not worry about pooing pants. Oh, maybe worry a little bit. Aaron, thank you for sharing out the link there. Good old Excel indeed. We got everybody in here. We got people saying thank you. Lamb is the best. And I'm not just saying that because there are 50 lamb that theoretically to my one New Zealander, at least by the old thing. Mum's pavlova recipe that she smuggled across from New Zealand herself back in the 90s. Well, I guess about her age. As a half New Zealand, half Australia, pavlova is the best cake and the best dessert in the entire world. And of course, it is a wonderful, amazing cake that was invented in New Zealand, not Australia. Even though I've been at some dinners being half Australia, half New Zealand, I've seen some debates, particularly where my Australian relatives they talk about it like the Kennedy assassination. They go into such detail explaining why the whole timeline of how it was invented in Australia before New Zealand. I don't care. It's from New Zealand. But there you go. Mr. Cordychip begs to differ. This is the sort of vicious kind of neighborhood rival. You got India, Pakistan, you got Ukraine, Russia, and New Zealand and Australia. We've got a cake that we fight over. It's a very good cake. Okay, I'm gonna go and set up the DJing sets. Coming if you want to hang around for that music, hang around for that. See you in a bit. Thank you for keeping me company. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter. And I'll be back here next week. We'll do another check out, by the way, Void. Where is it? Void Theft's channel. He's going to do a video response, which I will also retweet on, and I'll feature it next week, but I will retweet it on Twitter. He's going to make a video response to 2.5 Voyages last week. That's going to be awesome. So yeah, have a good week, everybody. Take it easy. I'm going to see you. Yeah, bye from you indeed, Void Theft, December Clouds, everybody. See you next week. Stay safe. Take care. Peace to everyone. And see you on the DJ set about to start in just a couple of minutes. See you later. Boom.